Hello there! What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about 5 characters in Star Wars Legion that could use a second version. This is going to be a fun list to talk about, but before I get into the list, I want to do a little admin stuff. If you are new here, I want to let you know there's still time left to enter to win the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. Also, if you didn't know, I've got other giveaways going on right now for an ARC Trooper giveaways running all month long. There's more details for that on Crabbok.com, but basically you have to follow me on social media. If you're not already a follower on Twitter or Facebook or something like that, there's links down in the description for that, as well as Discord links, merch. You can get t-shirts like this Chimera shirt or some masks like the Imperial mask, or if you're a different faction, I got Rebel versions, I got Darth Vader, I got Maul, all kinds of cool masks, gator necks, t-shirts. I even got a new dice prison bag when your dice are bagged for you. A lot of cool, fun stuff like that. But details for all of that on Crabbok.com. Check the links in the description below. Discord is also down there, and Patreon as well if you're interested in supporting the channel. There's lots of ways to do that. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this list. So, the idea for this list is that there are certain characters in the game that have multiple versions already. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader got extra operative versions not too long ago, and they're pretty cool. And one of the cool things about them is it gives you an alternate way to play the character. Also gives you different command cards. And now you can run, a mix of any of the command cards that you'd like. You can run all 6 command cards together, which is a super fun thing to be able to do. Now, I think there's certain other characters in the game that could benefit from this. It's a great way to kind of maybe, from a certain point of view, fix a broken character or give some new ways to play an existing character, or just add a little more variety to your games. I think it's especially cool because command cards used to be kind of a boring part of the game, but now that more and more characters are coming out and more generic command cards are coming out, building the command hand and the card gaming aspect of it is going to be very, very cool. So I think that's something else that having a second version of a commander can do. So these are 5 characters that I think need a second version in Star Wars Legion. Now, also, by the way, at the end of this list, if you disagree with any of my picks on this list, you go ahead and let me know down in the comment section. Or if there's more you think that should be added, go for it. This is just 5. It's not necessarily the definitive list. It's really just my opinion, but I'd love to hear from you guys too. First up is Han Solo. Han Solo is one of those characters that kind of got put in the game early. His character card wasn't really as good as like some of the newer characters that have come out after years of slightly power creep and design changes. He's got a great pierce value on his character, but he's got that short range. Makes him really hard to stay alive, to get in really close and do the things he needs to do. This does kind of represent Han from Episode 6, where he's a general and he's a commander. I would love to see a different version of Han from perhaps Episode 4 show up. He's a scoundrel. He's a smuggler. He's an operative. He doesn't have rank in the rebellion just yet, right? Maybe he helped Luke during the Death Star battle, and it's like, all right, you can come on. Oh, you want to do, but you can do your own thing, right? You can have Han and Chewie as operatives doing their own thing and a different commander. It'd be pretty cool. I'd love to see some of that type of stuff. And they could kind of redesign his character a little bit. I would love to see, the command cards for Han weren't really the problem. Of course, he would have some new ones, but I'd love to see that because some of the new command cards they could add could make Commander Han Solo a little better if he had a wider variety of command cards you could choose. A lot of times the command cards can be a reason to take a character over another character. I know that one of the reasons why I would take Princess Leia over the generic Rebel Commander might be because of those command cards. And granted, Leia is better, but she's also a lot more expensive. So that's kind of one of the things that you pay for when you're paying the price for a commander is their access to command cards. So if you increase Han's access to and giving him 6 command cards, Commander Han Solo could be better. But even as an operative, I feel like they could change him up a little bit, address some of his weaknesses, and give him a different style of play that might be better suited to a loner, a guy who is truly solo. Now, I wouldn't go with the Solo: A Star Wars Story version of Han Solo because that version has no affiliation with the Rebel Alliance whatsoever, so I don't really think that's appropriate. I think we would wait on something like that until they did either neutral, non-aligned units or even maybe a scum and villainy type of faction, but this Episode 4 Han Solo, I think, could be great. I would love to see him have some type of ability that lets him shoot somebody before they shoot him. Like as soon as he's targeted by an attack, he can, like once per round or something like that, he can shoot them back. And maybe you give him, maybe he doesn't have Gunslinger, but maybe he has range 3 or some other kind of ability. Or maybe he does have Gunslinger but has a weaker gun or something like, you know, you don't want him to be too much of a powerhouse, and you don't want him to be completely negating, you know, Commander Han Solo's ability, because Commando Han Solo is not really a support commander. He's an aggressive commander. So if this guy is also going to be an operative, you need him to play a little differently. And so I think it'd be really fun to see him as an operative and see what new command cards he could also bring to the table, and hopefully making both versions of Han Solo viable under different lists and offering some alternative ways to run him, and perhaps Chewbacca as well. Next up, General Veers. Veers is, I think, underrepresented in the Star Wars fandom. General Veers is also one of those characters that's super, and I mean super, because he's the only Imperial in the films who doesn't screw up. He's like flawless. He's the flawless professional, does his job and executes it perfectly. Very, very good job. Kind of like, I guess the closest approximation to that flawless level of Veers is the very first stormtroopers you see take the Tantive 4 at the beginning of episode 4, A New Hope. And I know I said Tantive, that is unfortunately how that ship is pronounced. But because those guys, you know, the ones that initially took they were very, very accurate. People have even counted those blaster shots. But you know, Veers did everything right. Veers is the only person that doesn't screw up in the entire original trilogy. He's the only Imperial, the only bad guy who does his job very, very well. And I don't feel like the version of Veers that we have right now really represents that. Here's my thoughts. A lot of people will say, well, that Veers is the vehicle commander. And while that is partially true, I'd like to see a different version of Veers that's truly a vehicle commander, and a heavy vehicle commander. I think Veers is really good if you're running speeder bikes. I think Veers is good if you're running an ATST with somebody like General Weiss and HQ Uplink or something like that, because he can let people recover. He's good for people that you want to recover. But I recently built a double ATST list and did not use Veers. As a matter of fact, there was not a single reason I could think of to use Veers outside of maybe getting some free aims. But now there's other cards that can give aims to ATSTs anyway, and so I didn't want to use Veers. And so I think we need a different version of Veers that does cater to heavy vehicles, that does work better. Like currently, I think because Veers is 2-pip right now. What am I going to give my ATSTs a dodge? I mean, like that's much better, and the ability to cancel crits with a dodge. That's better for speeder bikes. That's better for more fragile vehicles. And it's not as good for, like, an ATST is built to be able to take all the hits. So I didn't think that was a really good idea to use him for that purpose. Now, I think the best card for a double ATST list or a double heavy list, you know, whether you're using a tank or an ATST, or if they come out with any more heavy vehicles, which I hope they do at some point, is that I'd love to see, you know, like the best card right now is I think Pinned Down. It gives is a 2-pip to 2 heavies, and when the heavies shoot somebody, their orders go back in the bag. That's a really big thing now, especially with everybody using fire support. And Rex's 1-pip, it gives him fire support. All these face-up things. There's a lot of command cards out there now that reference units with a face-up token. Rex's 2-pip. I mean, that's really good stuff, right? I'm like, oh, well, no, you don't get to take advantage of that because I'm firing at you. I don't even have to hit. I'm like, honestly, Pinned Down is a great card for a double ATST list. And it's a generic card, so I can run any commander with it. So yeah, like Veers, excluding Veers from that list made me think we really need a Veers that is actually supporting heavy vehicles a little bit more. And maybe that would be in the form of a mounted commander. Maybe Veers in an ATST, or maybe Veers in something else. Probably not an ATST, but something else, like maybe an ATDP, or maybe I almost could see him like riding an ATRT or something like that, but that might be a little bit beneath him. So I don't know the best exact way to have him in, but I would love to have a version of Veers, or at least extra command cards for the existing Veers that could totally do that. That would be as good for a heavy list as generic cards are, if not better. Next up, Maul. Okay, this one, I think, I mean, granted, Darth Maul is not out yet, but we know we're getting Episode 1 Darth Maul. We're getting the Sith assassin version of Darth Maul. But we're not going to, and he's going to be an operative. But we're not going to get the commander version of Darth Maul. So now there's limits to how much I can really talk about with Maul because, well, his unit card hadn't even been spoiled yet. All we know is that he's got some fancy command cards, 2 1-pips and a 2-pip, and he comes with Sith probe droids, so he can do that sort of thing. So it seems like he's going to be functioning very much like an assassin in that game. But we need the commander version of Maul, don't we? I think a lot. I mean, he's popular enough. He's incredibly popular. Now, it's going to be interesting, though, because as a commander version of Maul, presumably from later in the Clone Wars, would he even be aligned with the Separatists? I don't really think so. So it really depends on if they end up doing sub-factions or something like that. But either way, we need this version of Maul to show up with robot legs, maybe even as the spider version. Probably not, though, because that was really just like the one episode or the one, but Mandalorian Maul, right? With and by the way, that's also a great opportunity to put the Maul's Mandos, in there with the black and red Mandalorian stuff. All of that would be down for all of that pre-Vizsla, all of it. It'd be great. It'd be super great. But also give him a version of the Darksaber, and he doesn't even have to use it. Like, treat it kind of like Sabine. Make another version of the Darksaber that he can equip, and maybe he doesn't have Arsenal. Maybe he have when you have it equipped, you have to choose. Do you want to use Darksaber or you want to use his? Who knows? Maybe you do give him Arsenal too, and be like, okay, you can just use your weapon, or you can use the Darksaber. It'd be super cool. But this would be a more reserved Maul, maybe a little bit less reckless, somebody who's actually got some maybe support options, or at least fights better with a group. Maybe cards that give him teamwork with somebody else who's near him. Maybe with Death Watch or something like that. Or with Savage Opress, or something like there's a lot of ways for a Clone Wars era Maul as a commander, and that would just kind of synergize with A, the growth of the character, and B, trends like Luke and Vader also having commander and operative. I think Maul is definitely entitled to something like that. Next up, Ashajj Ventress. Now, you probably thought I was only talking about characters that were announced. Yes, presumably, I'm not leaking anything. I don't know what's in development, but I'm sure if it's a popular character from the Clone Wars, we're going to see it eventually, and I'm sure we're going to see Ashajj Ventress eventually. Now, I'd like to see at least 2 versions of Ashajj Ventress, and of course the first one would have to be that Sith assassin, and that would be in a lot of ways kind of like how Darth Maul will probably end up. So I don't actually expect to see her for a little while, because if she came out right after Maul, she might be a little bit similar to him. I feel like they perform similar roles on the show, and in the canon they have similar roles, and so they might, functionally be kind of similar, although they might have different synergies. Like she might synergize with Dooku a little bit more than Maul does, and things like that. It'd also be kind of cool if you got a points discount if they were in the same army as somebody like Dooku. That would be a kind of a cool thing. But the second version, I think they'll definitely do like the assassin or her as an operative. But what if they wanted to do a different version of her? Now, there's a lot of versions of her that could be an operative. A bounty hunter version of her, which could be outside of the Separatists. Again, if they start doing sub-factions or something like that, could totally work. They could do... She might be able to be either an operative or a commander if she were with the Night Sisters. If you want to fast forward a little bit more, she kind of abandons Dooku and becomes, goes back home and works with the Night Sisters. And I would love to see her as a commander option for a Night Sister sub-faction. There's a lot of Dathomir-based characters that they can do. And they don't even have to all be Night Sisters. They could be just a Dathomir sub-faction. You'd have Night Brothers, you could have Mother Talzin, you could have the zombies, you could have the archers, you could have her, you could have Savage Opress, Maul could work in that faction. You could have a really cool Dathomir sub-faction. I think, a second version of Ashajj that's not just that separatist assassin, well, that would be a great way to do it. I'd love to see that. And the final version, someone else who is not yet in the game, Ahsoka. We got to have lots of versions of Ahsoka, right? Ahsoka could actually have more than 2, but I'll talk about the 2 that I expect that I'd like to see, and then I'll think what I expect to see. So first off, Ahsoka has so much growth during the show. You started off as this little kid. I think she actually had one lightsaber in her very first appearance in the movies, but honestly, if we get Kid Ahsoka, she's gonna have two green lightsabers. But I think as a kid, she gets maybe teamwork Anakin or retinue Anakin or something like that, or a detachment Anakin, something like that. That would be pretty cool if she had something along those lines. But I think she'd be an operative. I think if you want to show the growth of Ahsoka, you start her out as an operative, and then eventually go up to the end of the Clone Wars, where she's grown up a little bit more. She physically changes a lot during the Clone Wars. You can then do Commander Ahsoka and have her, potentially synergize with one other character. I think if you were running her with Rex, she could synergize with Rex pretty well. Or you could have her synergize with Anakin pretty well, or even Obi-Wan. She could synergize pretty well with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Because there's a lot of, or even like with one other character. I think it'd be kind of a cool thing if she did something like some kind of teamwork with one other person, and that could work in a lot of different canonical ways. Even Plo Koon, if he shows up at some point, that would make a good fit for her to be able to synergize with as more of a grown-up character. Now, what I do think will happen is that we'll probably get a version of Ahsoka with their two green lightsabers that you can probably opt to paint blue. That might kind of be an in-between that just show her as Clone Wars. I think we'll also get Commander a version of Ahsoka, but I think she'll be for the Rebels. I think we'll get adult Ahsoka for the Rebels, and what I think will end up happening is I think her 3 command cards and Clone Wars Ahsoka's command cards will, because the command cards aren't bound by faction, they're only bound by a character name. So this will be the first instance of you actually being able to take command cards across faction and do that. It's theoretically possible you could do it at any point. I mean, if you wanted to do a separatist human Darth Vader or something like that, of Anakin being evil, then that could, technically it was the rebellion at that day forward, but or a Ben Kenobi version of Obi-Wan Kenobi for the Rebels, like old man Obi-Wan, like that would potentially do it, depending on how they named the character. If they named him Ben Kenobi, then it might not work. But Ahsoka is a really great example to have command cards in the Republic and then command cards in the Rebellion, and then you can mix and match those all you want, as long as Ahsoka has she could have up to 6. That'd be a really fun thing to do, especially on such a beloved character, and also being able to give 2 factions access to her would be really cool. And that's going to do it for my list of 5 characters I think should have 2 versions. Some of them are already in the game. Some of them are not yet in the game, but I'm sure they will be. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. All right, guys. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I could not do this without you, so thank you for your continued support. And I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.